Okay, so let's kind of get going here. We're going to do section 1.4 today, distributive property and different properties. And this is actually the last section that we'll cover in chapter 1. So we're getting close to a test here over this section. So whether you're at home or whether you're in the building, whatever, today. So let's kind of get going here. So section 4, today, we're going to use the distributive property, use the inverse property, identity properties, the cumulative and associative, and then multiplication property of 0. But yeah, so let's start out with the distributive property again. Something you're pretty familiar with when we're talking about the distributive property. So we're talking about, kind of essentially multiplying inside of something inside, something outside, kind of that parentheses. So here is the distributive property itself. A distributive property says essentially is that if you have A times B plus C, that's equivalent to taking A times B, and I know it says it, I'm just rewriting it, plus A times C. And it doesn't matter what direction that it's on, if it's the A is before the parentheses or if it's after the parentheses. The symbol itself just takes on the effect of whatever symbol that is. Right there, could be a minus, whatever that is in there. And kind of also keep in mind that the distributive property isn't just for, the distributive property isn't just for one. You can extend it out to a bunch of different things. So this distributive property, you can distribute into each and every single one of them. And you can FOIL, you can do different types of things with that. FOILing is a distributive property, but it's essentially allowing you to multiply in there. The reverse of the distributive property is factoring. So we'll keep that in mind kind of as we're going along here too. So if we use the distributive property to rewrite this expression, this is really the first thing you're going to have to do in your assignment today. All you're really going to do is take negative 4 times p to get negative 4p, and then negative 4 times negative 5. So negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 5 is 20. You've just rewritten that expression in the form, really that they want it. And again, they're just going to lead you through it too. Whatever. Okay. So now, kind of the opposite of the distributive property is being able to take and kind of factor things out a little bit, or combining like terms, or doing whatever it is that you need to do. So you could use this property of distributive property to, if you wanted to factor things kind of out, you could say, okay, both of these have m in common. Okay, so if I take an m out of there, we've got negative 6 plus 2, which then is just negative 4m, is kind of that situation. And this is kind of the distributive property in reverse, because if I put this in there and I put this in there, we would have negative 6m plus 2m. Well, the other thing you could just do is you could say, I ain't going to do all that work. Since they have the same variable, you can just combine like terms and get your solution there as well and get that negative 4m for your solution. But again, there's kind of just a way to factor out. Now in this case, in this next example, 2r plus 3s, you notice they don't have anything in common. Both don't have r's and they both don't have s's. So there's not really anything you can do with these two. So really, this is done. There's not really any simplifying. Since they don't have any common variables in there, there's really nothing that you can do really with these. So you can't rewrite this using the distributive property. The expression itself is just done. Right? In this next example, you're going to look at saying, okay, well, we can take it to 3 different spots. Remember, distributive property just goes throughout. So you go there, you get 20p, you go there, you get negative 10q, you go here, you get 5r. None of those are the same. That's your solution. It's just taking that distributive property and working it out along the line to get the exact solution that we just had. So that's the distributive property. You've seen the distributive property, and that is really nothing new for you. Inverse properties. The inverse properties essentially say that if you take a number plus its inverse, you're going to get 0. And if you take a number times its reciprocal, you are going to get 1. So the inverse, the additive inverse is the opposites. We talked about that the other day. The multiplicative inverse is the reciprocal. But you're trying to get those things kind of equal to 1. And you're really not going to look too much at those. Identity properties. A couple of identity properties. The numbers 0 and 1 each have special properties. 0 is the only number that can be added to any number to get that number. Adding 0 to a number leaves the identity number unchanged. For this reason, 0 is called the additive element of addition or the additive identity. In a similar way, multiplying 1 by something leaves the identity of the number unchanged. So 1 is the multiplicative identity. When we're talking about identity, you're talking about not changing yourself, so to say. So when you add, you don't change yourself by adding nothing. Okay. In multiplication, you multiply yourself by 1, and you're not changing that identity. So that's our different identities. So the next thing we're going to want to do is just simplify then expressions. So if we're going to simplify the expression x minus 3x, remember if they don't have anything out in front of it, it's just like 1x minus 3x. So you just go 1 minus 3. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Your variable stays the same. You get negative 2x. Right, and we're not going to worry about all the different properties that are in there. We're just going to find solutions. Okay. With this next one, if that negative 1 is out front, we do have to distribute that negative into each of these pieces. So negative 1 times 3 is equal to negative 3. Negative 1 times 4 is equal to negative 4p. Those don't have anything in common. So then at this point, you are done. And you can just leave them alone. So some just general definitions. A term is a number or the product of a number and a variable. A numerical factor is called the numerical coefficient or just the coefficient. If two terms are exactly the same, we say they are like terms. So 5y and negative 25y are like terms since they both have y as variables. Negative 6x squared and 9x squared both have x squared kind of as your variable, so they are like terms. If they don't have the same variable, like 3m and 16x, they are unlike terms. And 3y cubed and 3y squared, though they're both y's, they don't have the same exponent. So these are unlike terms. And when you have like terms, you can combine like terms. You can't combine unlike terms. Okay? So the commutative and associative properties, we're not going to worry about those too much. We're not going to write all the properties. We're simply going to take these things and we're going to simplify them. So you're going to combine like terms. And I don't expect you to rewrite them. All I would expect you to do is look at the like terms, b, 12b, 4b, and negative 7b. 12 plus 4 is 16. 16 minus 7 is 9, so that gives us 9b. And then you look at the numbers, and that gives us negative 8. That's a nice 8. That's your solution. You're done. You don't need to worry about all of this. That's just a lot of excess work that you really don't need to do. We're just combining like terms. Okay, so just a couple more examples of combining like terms. Okay, all of those have the same variable, so you can just go 12 minus 9 plus 5 minus 7, and that just gives you 1, and then give them the variable that they have. In this one down here, you need to be a little bit careful with it because of this minus right here. That negative symbol needs to be distributed into both spots. So that's negative 2x minus 7 minus 3. Now you've got your variable negative 2x. And then you've got 6 minus 7 minus 3, which is negative 4. So you do have to watch out a little bit when they put that subtraction symbol in there, that you distribute that throughout everything. When you're multiplying and simplifying expressions, multiply the numbers together, multiply the bases together. So 4 times 2 is 8 mn. We can't combine them, so it's just 8 mn. You've done these before. This isn't really anything new. A couple things with the multiplication property of 0, and I think this kind of finishes it up a little bit. Remember that anything times 0 is equal to 0. I mean, this is what it is. And anything times 1 is whatever you multiplied by it. Okay? So those are the different properties and things that you need to have for section 1.4. Just kind of keep in mind as you're going through this section that this is the last section of chapter 1. So from a sense of things, if you're sitting at home and watching the video, it looks like you are having a test over this. There'll be review tomorrow, and test has to be taken either tomorrow or on Wednesday. So you should be getting close to having all of chapter 1 done. You should have taken the quiz already. You've got 1.3 and 1.4. Those you're not going to have a quiz on, so to say. You're just going to have an assessment on. And that assessment is going to be taken either Tuesday or Wednesday. For those of you that are in class, you'll just do it in class. Hopefully tomorrow you'll be able to take the test. We'll get you caught up on 1.3 today and get the quiz taken for those of you that didn't take it. And then you got 1.3 and 1.4 homework that you need to get done. And then we'll put the review and the test up there for you to get taken care of by Wednesday. And then we will start chapter 2 on Thursday. So hopefully everybody has a good day. It's about 12 minutes and 15 seconds today. So not too bad. Have a good day, everybody.